the comparison thing is something that I think is really important to not do and not compare yourself to where somebody else is at or other restaurants are at or any of that, and just get back to kind of your authentic self, authentic nature, and kind of just do you in a sense, I guess.
You've just heard the voice of Chef Michael Santoro, who is also the Chief Culinary Officer and partner of Mosaic Hospitality Management. He has an incredible history in the hospitality world, has lived abroad, has cooked in incredible kitchens, and has some amazing stories to share. We're so glad you could join us today on the Hotel Club podcast with my co-host, Chef Adam Malley, and myself, Kristy Whitford. Welcome. Enjoy the episode. Cheers. Hi, Chef. How are you doing?
Oh, me? Or there's two chefs on today.
I know.
That's why I got confused. I thought it was his turn.
It's you.
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you? How are you? Now that I know my
I'm doing good. I know we did our chat before we started recording, but we do have a second chef on today, which is very exciting.
Very exciting.
Yeah, his name is Chef Michael Santoro, and he is the Chief Culinary Officer and partner for Mosaic Hospitality Management. He has an incredible background. I know him because we used to work together at the Beverly Hills Hotel, where he was the executive chef there. And since then, he's gone on to do some wonderful things. And before that, some amazing things as well. So I'm excited to welcome him onto the show today and introduce him to you.
Yeah, I've actually wanted to meet him for quite some time.
Well, he's a good guy, and I'm so excited that he's agreed to come on our show today. And I texted him this morning and I'm like, hey, I'm excited you're going to be on the show today. And he's like, oh, is that today? I was like, yeah.
Typical chef.
Morning, guys.
So here he is, Chef Michael Santoro. Welcome to the Hotel Club podcast.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
Oh, so excited. Please let me introduce you to Chef Adam Malley.
Chef, a pleasure.
Chef, nice to meet you as well.
I think we've probably crossed paths about a billion times without ever having met.
Right.
So this is nice to meet you. Finally.
Totally. It's funny how there's like just a 1 or 2 degrees of separation with all chefs. Like we've worked with somebody or a cook or another chef. It's like a football coaching tree kind of.
Exactly.
That's the best way to put it, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, we did like a little intro before you got on, and you've had such an amazing history in your career. I shared that we worked together when we were at the Beverly Hills Hotel. So it's just, I haven't seen you at all. So this is the first time I've seen you. It's so nice.
A couple years. It is.
Yeah.
It changed a bit. You look younger than even there.
Oh, I mean, you know what happens when you leave operation.
Totally.
I never get to hear that often. So yeah. I'm gonna just ride on those coattails.
I was coming to you next. Don't worry. I was coming to you next.
Never met you before, but you look great too.
Yeah, you look great too, Chef. Yeah. Operations changes you. Like you scale for me, I feel like I got more balanced out. I feel much better. I have high energy. Yeah, my skin looks amazing. So I'm very proud of that.
Definitely. The day-to-day grind in operations it takes a toll, physically, really, mentally, the whole nine.
I'm out of it too. And I feel it's like drinking through a fire hose on some days, but the day-to-day grind is nice to be away from.
Yeah. It really is, really is. It's hard to get away from it. Like it just drags you in all the time, and it's so ingrained in your DNA. Like even when I go to the restaurants now, like I feel this internal kind of compulsion to it. Like I have to get in, I have to help, I have to be, I have to be there. Oh, I only work 10 hours. I should be working 13 hours, It's like you just feel so, I don't know, guilty towards it kind of when you see it and you're around it like that.
Oh, totally. I've been flying around the country because we have properties primarily on the East Coast, and I live in Northern California. But same thing, you get off and you just want to help people
Mhm.
from sinking, or
Mhm.
you want to show cook stuff that, we have some properties in some very remote locations, and some of these cooks, like the highest level of experience they have might have been at an Applebee's,
Mhm.
and you want to just show them the right way to do something with a bit more soul, and they want it,
Yep.
but you have to get in there and pick up a knife sometimes.
Yeah, and you can't just kind of do it part-time. You have to, if you're going to impart your kind of tutelage to a cook, it's really hard to do it in a 10-minute window. It's the day after day. They need to see the ethic. They need to, hear from you about like why you're doing things a certain way. It's a lot of time, requires a lot of time.
And then we have our other day-to-day stuff, which mine keeps growing, it keeps multiplying along with my emails.
Right?
We've been on the show, we've talked to Chef Adam about the operations, and he's gone from being in the kitchen to washing dishes one day, and then suddenly he's the GM of the hotel in the same day. And it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, that's a lot. It's exhausting,
Yeah.
and same thing with you, Chef Michael, where you're like all over the kitchen. Someone
Hmm.
didn't show up for work, I'm sure. And then there you go. You got to figure things out.
Hmm.
Oh, there's the catering menu we suddenly need to make happen. That's incredible. Let's do that.
Or a
Oh,
spa activation,
yeah.
or
I hope I wasn't that much of a headache. There's a lot. There's a lot that goes into the operations, it's a lot. I'm thankful for
I'm
the
sorry, when you said someone didn't show up, I broke out into a cold sweat,
yeah.
and
Yeah, or
I
or the
started.
break. You got to cover the break,
Oh,
right?
see, in other states, it's amazing, and I hate even saying this, but it's like I was in a state in the southeastern United States, and I'm like, okay, so what time does everyone go on break? And they looked at me like I had three heads, like, break, and I'm like,
Really.
oh, you don't do that.
It's only
Oh,
California. Yeah.
yeah.
Wait, is that true? It's only
No,
California?
yeah. I think it's only California. It might be New York and
It's New York
Massachusetts.
too now. Yeah, it's more and
Okay.
more prevalent kind of throughout like the bigger states.
Wow.
But yeah, in the Midwest and Ohio, where I'm from, break doesn't exist. No,
That's
there's no break.
insane.
Plenty of time
That's
for a break when you're dead.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the mindset. Yeah,
oh
well,
my
at least it
God.
was the mindset. I think it's changing somewhat now.
No, that sounds crazy.
So I've been on interviews all morning where I've been asking a lot of questions to people who, surprisingly, mental health, by the way, is this topic that kept popping up. It's popping up with every chef that I talk to. Just subject to be discussed later, I guess. But I'm curious to know more about your journey and how you got to be a chef. What got you into the business, and what makes you get out of bed in the morning to do this?
Hmm. Yeah, so interestingly enough, and we talk about this all the time, like there aren't very many people that want to be in the restaurant industry, want to be in the hotel industry. Everybody kind of falls into it some way, shape, or form. I'm really no different from that. I started off in computer science. So in high
Oh,
school, I was like building computers, and this was in the 80s and early 90s. So they were just kind of coming out, and I thought I kind of knew what I was doing. So I went to school in Cincinnati, University of Cincinnati for computer science. And the first 10 minutes in class, I knew there was no way I could. This was not for me. Like I had no idea what they were talking about. There was like total other language. And like I missed a couple classes and it was over, done. Started, partying, young kid, stupid stuff that you do in your 20s. I've always kind of really been excited about Italian cooking. So it was an Italian restaurant. I started cooking. It was a lot of fun. This was back then in the 90s. So, you're drinking at work, you're smoking on the line. It was a total it was a kitchen nightmares kind of Anthony Bourdain Kitchen Confidential. Like that's exactly how it was,
I miss those days.
Yeah. There's many stories that we all have from those times. I mean, I've kind of seen, I've seen so much stuff. And then I was cooking around Ohio for a while in Cleveland, and I had a chef tell me, he was like, "Hey, you're pretty good at this. You should go to culinary school." And it never had occurred to me to go to culinary school for it. So I had a knack for it, so I was okay at it. And I had a guy who was like, "You should go cook in Europe." So I was like, "That sounds like a great idea." So I packed my bags and went and worked in Europe for 2 years for free. It's a totally different experience over there. That's kind of where I came face to face with, like, how should I put it? The hard truth about the restaurant industry. I saw
What?
guys get
Which hard truth?
Yeah,
And
I
then
want to know. What is this?
and then
all
where
of it, all of
where
it.
Should I
where did you
close my
work in
spa
Europe?
ears?
I mean, I saw guys get kicked.
Oh yeah.
I had a chef take a
Wow.
kid's was telling a kid to deep fry something, and the kid was like, it's not hot enough. Like the fryer's not hot enough. He grabs his hand and just puts it in the fryer and
Oh
starts
my
frying the
God.
kid's hand. And I'm like,
Whoa.
oh my God. The kid runs off. Like,
Oh,
just to watch this kind of stuff was absolutely insane. It was absolutely insane. Uh,
wow.
you were really kind of pushed, like, you were pushed to the break, through the break, and then it was like kind of a military thing, like then a rebuild through it. And like you got better and stronger kind of through it all. But unfortunately, that's not a very good good way to go about it. Yeah,
That
so
sounds wild.
I don't
yeah,
know.
so
I kind of liked it.
Yeah. No way.
I saw a lot of guys, like probably in culinary school, out of the entire class, I would say maybe 5% are still kind of cooking. It's just an
Mhm.
industry that just kind of chews you up, spits you out if you're not able to, or if you don't want to kind of go through it. I didn't know anything else. It's the only thing I really knew. I played some sports, I tinker around on computers, and cooking was the only thing I was really ever good at. So for me, there was no other option really. I had to make it work. Like that was a career path, and like that's what we were going to be doing. So I worked in Spain for a year, went there and, didn't speak any Spanish. And, the chef on the very first day, it was kind of cool. And there's 50 people in the kitchen. And on the very first day, he comes up to me in English and he goes, "What is easier, for one to learn the language of 50 or for 50 to learn the language of one?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's a really good point." So he's like, "We're not going to speak English to you." I was like, "Okay." And so
Wow.
they didn't speak English. Yeah, they spoke Japanese, Basque, Castellano, they had French, but not English. So it
Mhm.
was really super challenging, but it made me appreciate, in SoCal, like the Mexican community, the Latin community was so strong in our kitchen culture that it really gave me a good understanding of like what you have to give up to go somewhere else, not speak anything, not know anything, and make it work. It's really
That's,
helped me kind of understand the culture a little bit more.
how's your Spanish?
It's pretty good. It's actually really
Yeah.
good. I can speak it all day long in the kitchens. I mean, at first people have a hard time understanding me, but after like a couple days, they're like, okay, I kind of understand like how I'm working around like the different words to like, kind of make it happen. But yeah, I would say it's pretty good.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
3 Michelin stars is the highest level, and with it comes so much pressure, so much stress. The environment is like a tinderbox for anxiety, violence, depression. It's like ground zero for that stuff. You're not getting days off. For 2 years, I didn't have a day off. You're working from 6 a.m., 7 a.m. to 1 a.m., cleaning,
Wow.
scrubbing, all that stuff.
Yep. Yeah. Great.
Jeez.
It's rough.
You're giving up your family, you're giving up your friendships, you're giving up your community, you're giving up your sanity, you're giving up your personal life. I mean, it's a total complete sacrifice. And, now there's such a contrast today to that time to today. And I think it's good. I think it's important. I think it's helping, but we're definitely not there yet. And
No,
No.
no, no. We got a long way to go.
I'm not really seeing, I think like wages play a huge part of it. There's not a lot of margin in the restaurant industry. So for somebody to take a mental health day or somebody to need some time off, it's challenging to be able to give them that time off. or give them that break they need. That means you have to have another person on your staff. That means you're paying more money out, and the margin is 6%, 8%, sometimes 10 if you're lucky.
I don't know that margin. You guys know it better than I do, but I mean, like going from Spain, leaving Spain, did you come straight to the States after Spain?
Yeah, well, I went back to London, so I spent 2 years between London and Spain, and then I went to New York. That's kind of when I started like really cooking. Opened up a restaurant with one of the youngest chefs to earn 4 stars in the New York Times in New York. So he was like 24 or 5 at the time, and from England, and very, very, it was just like you just transported that whole experience to the US. So it was like it was a very, very intense environment. A very intense environment.
You survived it,
Totally. I
barely.
mean, this guy would come in and he would change the menu. I mean, you probably, seen this before, 5 o'clock, he'll come in and change the whole menu. And you're like, holy crap, I have to have all this, create all this new stuff now for 6 o'clock for the first seating. Some guys were, just getting fired on the spot. You would get in there at 6 a.m. and you'd be literally running through the kitchen, like sprinting to try to have all this stuff done and be ready for when the menu change comes, or when he hated everything that you made that day or whatever it was. You had to like be
Oh
ready,
my gosh.
and he would like recall things for 2 or 3 weeks back of what you've been working on or what everybody's been developing, and be like, give me that from that day and this from that day, and then let's turn it into that. And you're just sort of like, you know making it happen, because if you don't, you're out of there. But if you can make it happen, then you quickly, then you get like promoted, and you start to have a good career. And that's kind of what happened. So, I kind of worked my way up to sous chef there, and then started getting chef de cuisine jobs, and just, kind of went from there.
It's crazy. I know that for the, I don't know how long, but it feels like the European model that you described, which I know also a
Hmm.
lot of people have tried to emulate it here in the US,
Hmm.
instead of maybe trying to improve it and make it more efficient, because it's really not. I mean, you can get to a 3-star level, and yeah, you do have that insane amount of pressure. Everything has to be perfect, otherwise you've lost everything with one little detail. But at the same time, taking it out on people throwing spoons. I mean, I've been hit with many flying objects in my career at home and
Oh,
abroad. I remember my getting hit with a spoon in the back of the head.
Yeah. I mean, we're laughing, but it's terrible. It's
And it
how
wasn't
terrible.
did
anything I did either. It was another guy, and I got hit. And the chef was like, "Yeah, you take that, just in
Yeah.
oh
case you
my
do something in
God.
the future. That's for you." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah. Yeah. Pins and needles. The whole day is pins and needles, you're
Hmm.
head down. And as soon as one guy screws up somewhere in the kitchen, then, oh, it's just the avalanche comes from that. And everybody's, doesn't want to be next. They don't want to be called out. They don't want to, it's just there were a lot of days where I was kind of like, if this guy comes up and hits me, I'm gonna hit him back. Like,
Oh my
I
gosh.
was always ready for like a punch, to be like, no, I'm not gonna take a punch. You know what I
This
mean? And
sounds
yeah.
crazy.
And
I
that's how
mean,
you're going to work every single day. Every
you did this for like your career in the very beginning, both of you, but like what
day.
did it feel like when you became the chef de cuisine, when you had your own kitchen and you were going to run it from there on? What did those years previously of getting things thrown at you and watching this havoc, what did it do to you mentally? And how did you change that for your own kitchen?
My first chef de cuisine job, it was definitely a lesson in kind of it was a reset for sure. It was a hotel, so they're already a little bit more political, bureaucratic. HR is stronger. The restaurants where the chef is kind of the king of the castle is where I came from. And then you're going in this hotel where, oh, you have to listen to the F&B director, and oh, there's a GM, and oh, there's these other aspects to it.
Mhm.
And I came in pretty hot. Like, I was, wanted a certain level, and there was a lot of pressure on this particular hotel. And, it would take me like maybe two or three mistakes to kind of like lose it a bit. It was
Yeah.
never like punching or hitting, but I mean the temper was there. It was always just like right below the surface, ready to kind of pop at any given time. Um,
Yeah.
and that didn't go away really until I had my child.
Really?
So yeah, once I had my son, it was like, wow, like, it sort of it put everything in perspective. Like these are people, this is
Yeah.
somebody's child, this is somebody's sister, brother, all that kind of stuff. And that really kind of hit home and made me definitely make me look at what I was doing and changing on what I was doing.
Having a son brought the softness back to you, the
Yeah,
humanity.
totally, totally. Well, also like, your everything is so focused around the, cooking and creating the next plate and, the guest, a guest complaint or a service moment that's not going right or a delivery that, you're so focused on the restaurant and
Yeah.
having, having a child or having something else in your life that you
Yeah.
can connect to is definitely what kind of changed the landscape for me and got me out of that like sole focus, give up everything, sacrifice it all, and in a very unhealthy way that people shouldn't people shouldn't work like that. Like people should not be doing that.
That's amazing. I mean,
So,
chef, in your kitchens, you don't exercise that kind of thing anymore, right? No, no hands in the fryer, Chef Adam.
not in the
Just
last
in
week.
the back of your head.
Um, but the HR component, because I mean, right now I'm working, and we're both working for a hotel group. So my group is driven very much by HR, and
Mhm.
the I want the environment in which a chef or cooks work to be something that could be memorable, like we do for a guest. And I don't want them to have the stress of being on pins and needles all day and walking on eggshells and that kind of thing. For me, when I started my first chef job, um, I knew I was ready when I was ready to make my own mistakes. It came at a certain point, and like you, chef, when I had my daughter, my first daughter, that's kind of when I took stock and I was like, wait, what am I doing?
Mhm.
This
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
first of all, what am I doing? Why am I dedicating all the time I could be spending with family and friends and enjoying life? And also, I owed my children something sometime.
Mhm.
But then also the temper thing, it mellowed me out. I had it too.
Mhm.
I never put anybody's hand in a fryer, and I kind of wished that I at least had that experience.
Oh.
But
Oh my God.
No, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure you don't want to have that experience.
the 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 best was in London. I saw a cook. We pranked him. There was a cook who absolutely hated Gordon Ramsay and actually had come up with him. You probably know who it is, but he just absolutely hated. I mean, most do,
Yeah,
but
that's a long list right there of cooks.
but this guy, was really super talented, and Gordon Ramsay had gotten the spotlight, so he was just completely bitter and angry. And uh, anyway, there was a cook there who wasn't very good and was a little seemingly slow on the uptake, and so a whole bunch of other cooks who'd been there a while pranked him and said, he likes it when you call him Gordon.
Oh no.
So I'll leave it to your imagination as to what
Yeah.
happened next, but you can imagine the fact that you could hear a pin drop in the kitchen after that one.
Yeah,
So,
sure, for
but
sure.
so what do you do, or what have you discovered that works to kind of keep uh, sanity amongst yourself and amongst your team?
Yeah, something that I've really gotten into kind of just before COVID started, because of course, like COVID accelerated kind of all these issues in our industry in the food and beverage industry. you were already kind of working a lot. You were putting in a lot of time. And then now everybody's home and you're still working. We were essential workers. Like I was going in, I mean, we all have the stories, but I was going
Mm.
into work at the time and coming home and, you're taking all your clothes off outside and spraying Lysol and everything. Like it was absolutely insane. And on top of that, you're still doing, food service and having to come up and pivot with new ideas to try to keep the door open. Not everybody was getting the government funding and or had like an ownership that could support it. So you're doing to-go stuff and then, meal planning and building tents in the parking lot, like whatever it was to kind of keep it going. Um, and right at that time, I had gotten like a weight, like some weights, like a rack and some weights and some barbells and stuff like that. I had just gotten that. And if it wasn't for like that purchase, I think I would still be kind of in that like rut, I guess you could call it. Like
Hmm.
working out is kind of that wellness aspect, and it kind of once you identify it, like the wellness aspect to it, you realize that it's in kind of other parts of your life too, like what you're eating, what you're watching, what you're reading, what you're listening to. Like the diet isn't just, what you're eating in food. It's all the media, everything that is going in your body or brain is part of a diet. And you can choose to have good things going in there or crummy things going in there. And once you identify it, I think it helps you identify kind of all the things that you're consuming and question whether or not you should be consuming it and kind of re-inventory what you're doing on a daily basis. And that's kind of what started for me. And I've really kind of attached to that, and that's one of the things that I constantly defend against. Like the hotels, they want to drag you in, owners meetings, P&Ls, like all that stuff wants to drag you in, but you have to really just set that hard boundary with it and say, no, I'm gonna work out today, or I'm gonna do a gratitude lesson today, or I'm gonna get involved in a community aspect today, or spend time, with my son one on one, or my wife, or whatever it is. And you have to like defend that, kind of at all
Yeah,
costs.
it's really important. Otherwise, they'll take it out of you.
Creeps in.
Um,
Yeah, it keeps creeping in.
to your point, you mentioned COVID a couple of times, and I noticed in the industry as a whole, I mean, after COVID, it seemed to have gotten a bit worse. Like people view people and staff as almost human furniture
Mm-hmm.
that can be moved,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and and I think we really need to get back to looking at people as just as human beings again,
Mm-hmm.
and assessing their needs.
Mm-hmm.
And the industry is definitely hurting. I constantly hear, the refrain is nobody wants to work anymore, and it's kind of like, yeah, nobody wants to work in this industry anymore.
Yeah, you see it in guest interaction, like people that are eating out, they want what they want right now, and they're super rude to our team member, like to our staff, and it definitely needs a reset. It's just so interesting on so many sides. It's hard to really see where it's going to come out. There's a new law coming into California in July where all the kind of hidden service charges have to
Hmm.
have to go away essentially. So you're going to see the price of food continue to rise. And already there's a value proposition, where people don't feel like they're getting the value. It's going to get worse. It's interesting to see where it's going to play out to.
But I feel like the consumers in general don't understand the amount of work that you do in the kitchen, and they take it for granted. Like I've been with people and they're, just even at a dinner party, and I'll even hear guests that are at a dinner party in a restaurant and just have no consideration for the menu. When you see like a chef has put on the menu, no substitutions, unless there's an allergy, and suddenly someone's decided they're on a new diet in LA for the week, and you have to
Yeah.
like, you don't go vegan in a steak restaurant,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
not
yeah.
what you do.
Yeah.
And it's harmful to not only the team, but you can't eat a certain thing, like look at the menu ahead of time before you get there. That's what I think. Like if you're invited to this place, maybe it's not going to suit your needs. Look ahead so you're not that person that's taking 10 minutes of the server's time to decide what to eat. Be proactive, be kind, be gentle with the people that are serving you, because they're people, and it does impact the mental health of everybody that's on staff, because you could have a server that just really wants to take care of you, but you're being a jerk. Like, don't be a jerk. I used to say this, like, post-COVID, I used to say to my team, like, "You're gonna receive people, we don't know what they've been going through before they arrive.
Yeah.
Just be as open-minded as you can, but also no don't take it personally, because people are not in their right mind at the moment, right? There's so much going on,
Mhm.
but also, like, don't carry it with you. Like, create a boundary and be able to say things that if you can't communicate with the guests, bring somebody else in that can. But I feel like it's just the consumer has lost their intelligence and their common sense and their kindness to ensure that the people that serve you is a privilege. It's a privilege to have someone serve you. It's a privilege to have someone cook for you. It's a
Mhm.
privilege to walk into a restaurant, sit down in a nice setting, have a gorgeous meal prepared for you,
Yeah.
and we need everyone to remember that. Hotels, like, if you're eating in a hotel restaurant, that's it, like you were explaining, the difficulties of managing all those relationships, owners, GMs, executives, the chef. It's like you're wearing 20 people's hats sometimes all at once,
Mhm.
and this is the one thing I didn't care for so much is, like, you have the consumers that come in, the guest that comes in and can just ruin your whole kitchen's day because they're just impossible.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I just feel like if you're impossible, don't leave your house.
Mhm.
Like, if you're impossible, stay home.
See, we've been put in the wrong people's hands and fryers for too long.
You know? It's like you love serving, you love cooking for people, but when people make you feel like you can't even do your job and have a good time doing it because they're making it hard for you, that's what makes people question why they're even there.
Mhm.
Where servers used to love being the server and, like, being able to wait on the guest, and then suddenly, like, you just have that one terror guest, and then they're like, "Forget it, I don't wanna do this anymore." And that
Mhm.
person might be just a really incredible person, but someone just tipped them over and that was it.
Mhm.
Like, in the spa world, I've had therapists that are extremely amazing at what they do, but when you have a guest walk into a treatment room and they booked a certain massage and the therapist begins the treatment, like, these therapists are highly trained, just like your teams in the kitchen, right? Highly trained at what they do.
Yeah.
Imagine having this is the only way I can equate it because I'm not in the kitchen like you guys. But but imagine a therapist that's really seasoned and this guest proceeds to tell the therapist how to massage them.
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh my god, are you serious?"
Yeah.
No, and this has happened a few times where a therapist is just, like, mind blown, and so they're just doing their best to make that guest feel their best, right? So they're just listening to this guest tell them what to do. Meanwhile, this is mumbo jumbo, it makes no sense in their mind, their therapist's mind, and so they give the guest the treatment, and at the end, the guest complains. It's like, well, if you would have let the therapist do their job, you would have had a great experience.
Totally. Totally.
Right? It's then
Totally.
so it's like, if you're gonna tell the chef and the team how to cook your meal,
Yeah.
you're not gonna have a great experience because they created it for you, you didn't let them do it.
Yeah, and you see it all the time. You get an order for, whatever it is, and they modify 3 items on it and then ask for a substitution. They're like, I don't really like this. I was like, well, no kidding, because you created
Yeah,
the one stupid dish.
we
Yeah.
coulda told you that.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Well,
Because
you get this, you can get this from two different angles too. There's the case of the F&B director that's never been inside of a kitchen,
Hmm.
except to come in and tell you something about a dish and ask for a substitution
Mhm.
because he doesn't like Jerusalem artichokes.
Mhm.
I mean, so you get it
That's
from
very specific.
You get it from a lot of angles. Yeah,
you
you
get it
get a lot of,
or the GM. The GM is another one.
or even Yelp, like your Yelp is this
Oh,
tool that
oh, it's a tool, all right.
Yelp
Oh
is
my
this tool that
goodness.
like you have the kind of this part-time reviewer syndrome where people like to be, salacious now, and like that's what gets clicks and that's what gets reviews, and yeah, and unfortunately it's like very harmful. You end up kind of chasing this cycle sometimes, and you have to kind of step back from it or break the cycle because you can just get into this, spiral of reading reviews and adjusting the food to the reviews and then reading more and adjusting it and experience and
I have a resolution for any type of reviewer that when I go on to, we'll just say Yelp, right? Or any other food review or opportunity that you can say something. Personally, I have a very, very unique palate because of my background, and I eat different types of food from all different cultures. So when I look at someone's review, first thing I think is, one, I don't even know you. I don't even know what kind of things you like to eat. So
right.
why would I trust what you're saying? Because we have nothing in common. Like, what's your favorite food? Probably not like the spiciest papaya salad that you've ever had in your life.
Mhm.
And you probably never even had like the exotic foods that maybe I've eaten.
Mhm.
And so when I read these reviews, I'm like, I'm not going to trust it until I go there myself.
Mhm. Well,
One, there's a reason why this restaurant's open.
yeah.
You're not that person's review isn't gonna judge whether or not I like it or not, because I end up going to the restaurants that have 3-star reviews on, let's say, Yelp, right? And for me, they're delicious. They're
But
so good, and I wanna go back and be like, "Your review sucks."
you are the exception to this. You are the absolute opposite to this rule because most of the
Well,
time, if it's not 4.8 or higher, people aren't even gonna look at it.
Well, I think this is what's the best thing about, like, this show that we've created, is that I want people to be educated on the decisions that they're making.
Mhm.
You can't trust people's reviews because you're not their friend. You don't know who they are. You don't know where they've eaten. You don't know where they've traveled. You don't know their background. You don't
Mhm.
know what allergies they have this week,
Yeah.
right? And you don't know what kind of person they are. Are they nice? Are they like malicious? Do they just want to have bad intent? So it's
Yep.
like, don't do that. Don't read reviews unless you go there and you have a full background check on yourself. Like, I don't trust those things anymore. It was a good idea when people were nice. I think that was the
Not anymore.
intention behind Yelp. Like,
Yeah.
it was good when
Yeah.
people were nice, but not anymore.
It's
Not anymore.
It's funny that you bring that up because this like the comparison aspect of what we all kind of tend to do is also a driver of kind of poor mental health. Like,
Yeah.
restaurants are comparing themselves to a variety of restaurants based on reviews. People compare them, chefs, we compare ourselves to other chefs, like, oh, this guy is more famous, or that girl, is better at this, or but within
Mhm.
each person, there's all these other aspects of their lives that, you're just comparing one to the next, but you might be great at sports and have a great, family, and this other chef or whatever might not have any of that or might not want that. And so like the comparison thing is something that I think is really important to not do
Mhm.
and not compare yourself to where somebody else is at or other restaurants are at or any of that, and just get back to kind of your authentic self, authentic nature, and kind of just do you in a sense, I guess.
That's
Agreed.
actually going to save the industry because I think if people accept that, for instance, running multiple boutique properties with restaurants associated with them, you have to kind of admit that the labor model now is totally different. And so you have to be more authentic. You have to offer the best that you can possibly do. I've been in situations where I've been pressured to put out a Cheesecake Factory size menu with a crew of three. And, and so
Okay, Dreamweaver.
everything on the menu is going to suck.
Yeah.
The crew is going to be debilitated because they can't keep up.
Yeah.
The servers are going to be, frustrated, and they're going to blame the kitchen, and it just creates this anxiety and animosity that doesn't need to be there.
Mhm.
And then the whole social media component. It's people are comparing boutique restaurants that are standalone that have a great offering to, well, why can't it be like EMP?
Mhm.
I ate at the French Laundry last week, and I had something completely different than this flat iron steak
Like, come on.
chimichurri.
Totally.
And it's like,
Totally.
but it's not that it's apples. It's not apples to
Apples to
apples.
oranges. Yep. Yep.
No. There's a quote that I love so much. It's by Theodore Roosevelt. I heard it a couple years ago and it's always stuck with me. And that quote is, comparison is the thief of joy.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that is something that our
So true.
society in all its glory needs to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Because if you keep comparing yourself in all ways, right? When it's a menu from another menu or even yourself to another person, all you're doing is living in someone else's idea, and that's your own because you fixated that,
Mhm.
instead of living in the present and enjoying everything that you're receiving in that moment.
Yep.
And like we were talking about, like, this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I think a lot of the things about mental health are highlighted, but this was something that was, I think did I tell you it was 1949, Chef Adam, that Mental Health Awareness Month was actually placed in the month of May and shared that this is a month that we're going to start taking care of ourselves and whatnot and recognizing it. But people haven't really done a good job until
Okay.
recently,
Yeah. No
since
way.
1949.
No.
That's amazing.
Isn't that wild?
That's
You would
amazing.
think that would be further along, but it feels like we've just hurt our brains even more.
It wasn't even a phrase until maybe what, 10 years ago or something.
Yeah,
Like
but it's been
yeah.
in effect since 1949.
Amazing.
and,
That's
and
wild to me. Now, like
eh,
with oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, in the last few years, I feel like as a society, our collective hand has been put in a fryer,
Yeah,
and we so
that's a
it's
great way of
it's
putting
I
it.
love the usage on this.
I'm kind of like fixating on this. I got to do it at
It's
some point,
scarring. It's scarring.
and I'll let you know how it turns out. Um, but we need more, I guess, visibility and awareness now than ever
Yeah,
before, especially if we're going to turn this around, because I do see the industry as a really important pillar of our culture, um, in terms of the arts, our socialization, um, and just making society a better place. But if it keeps going in this direction, I feel like we're at some point it won't be sustainable. I think we're at that point. We need to do something about it, and I think mental health awareness is going to help in a large part.
Mhm.
we're in a position to where we need to course correct ourselves at this moment in time. That's a therapy phrase, by the way. Speaking of
I like
mental
the hand.
health.
I like the hand in the fryer analogy better,
Yeah.
but okay.
Like with your team right now, it sounds like you have a great practice yourself, Chef Michael, where you focus on your fitness, your well-being, gratitude. How
Mhm.
do you echo this, or do you echo this to your team in the kitchen and the people that you work with to ensure that they're taking care of themselves too? Like, what do
Yeah,
you do?
definitely. So we really work with, the leaders in the building. So in what we do is we manage hotels, restaurants, and office buildings that have food on the ground floor kind of stuff. Uh, and typically there's an exec chef and an F&B director, sometimes there's a director of operations, and we work directly with those kind of three leaders to make sure they understand that they're modeling the behavior. So if they're working 13 hours, 14 hours, if they're,
Mm.
Mhm.
you know, they're all day long, if they're not taking their vacations, if they're doing this kind of thing, then they're showing everybody under them that either A, that's what it takes to be in that position, or you know, like casting this kind of guilt shadow sometimes that people work under,
Yeah, I
you
love that you
know.
said that.
Yeah, so we really expect them to model it, and if we see them not modeling it, we'll kind of force them to model, you know, like force model it with them so they understand the importance of modeling it. And that
Yeah.
really translates down to the other team. Like they're saying that, you know, oh, this guy's taking, you know, taking off another weekend. Cool. You know, I want to take off, you know, a weekend in May or whatever. And so it
Mhm.
really kind of opens that pathway up. Some of the other things we've done, and you've done this before in kind of our past lives when we worked together,
Yeah.
was strength finders, kind of leadership things. We really
Yeah.
want to understand what people are good at, what they like to do, and
Mhm.
rearrange the team to or build the team in a way that allows everybody to do what they like to do. And so
Oh, good.
much more energizing when you go to work and you're like, you know, I love crunching numbers or I love being creative. And like that's a big part of what you do on a day to day. So
Yeah.
people enjoy that more, right? Like creating that environment at work that people actually like to get up and go to work and participate in. So those are kind of like the big ones. We have something called unlimited PTO, which
Oh,
is kind of an interesting one. And what we're
yeah.
seeing is that people are really only taking like 2 weeks off a year with it, you
Mhm.
know. But the idea that it's unlimited after you know, you have a 90-day period, and then after all the rules and benchmarks are, you know, understood within your job, you know, kind of your
Mhm.
function and your purpose, then you're sort of free to schedule yourself off whenever you need it. So if you've already taken 2 weeks vacation and you want, you know, your friend is having a wedding, go and, you know, as long as the operation's covered and everything's working out, like go and do it. And
Yeah.
people love to love that they feel like, oh man, you know, they're not saving this bank of time that they're gonna burn up and then never have it again for 365 days.
Yeah.
They like to know that I have that option. And so that's something that's working really well for us.
That I feel like that takes some pressure off of you in terms of knowing that you're not stuck to these 2 weeks that you only get a year,
Mhm.
right? Because
Mhm.
it gives them the freedom
Mhm. Totally.
to have that space and, like, not feel bad about planning months in advance and or feeling uncomfortable about requesting more time off because everybody's on the same playing field, like, everybody
Totally.
has unlimited PTO.
Totally. Yeah, and
That's
if
amazing.
some when people do request time off, like there is a hard policy, like don't give anybody a hard time if they do want to take time off, right? Like
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
super rude. If somebody has something they want to do and you're making them feel pressured or bad about it, like
Yeah.
that's super rude to do, and we make sure that that's not around, you know, so people
Okay.
feel like they can take it.
I love that. What do you think about that, Chef Adam?
I think it's great. What I was really intrigued about was what you mentioned about modeling behavior, which is something so obvious but so important that as leaders we if we're making people feel guilty for not working 24/7, then it's really on us. And I
Mhm.
felt that was kind of a profound thing, and it hit me all of a sudden, like, oh my God, I've done it. I've seen it done. I see people doing it, and then typically you'll blame the victim, like, well, you knew what you were getting into in the hospitality industry,
Right. Right.
your
Totally.
fault.
Totally.
But but
Yeah.
it's, I mean, I think that's one way of course correcting as people who have been leaders and are leaders, we need to be acutely aware of that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Certainly, the unlimited PTO is a great thing. Can be a great thing.
Mhm.
Um, I've seen it work with mixed results. I mean, I'm glad it's working in your company well. I've seen it used as a weapon in other places. Yeah,
Oh.
You have
Yeah.
unlimited PTO. You just can't take it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but if it works and it's a tool of a means of success in terms of making people feel welcomed and cared for in the industry, then absolutely it's great.
Mhm. Yeah, and like we really, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, we really put, I mean, Kristy, you know this too, like we really put the employee kind of in the middle, of all of this. Really want to get to know them and and
Yeah,
build the relationship first. And once you kind of understand people and connect with people, like all this kind of stuff really sort of just goes away a little bit.
it
People
really does.
they feel comfortable talking to you, they feel
Hmm.
comfortable asking for things. So the hiring is really important, during an interview when you're bringing on a leader or any other team member, identifying what kind of person they are and just getting to know them as a person and if they're genuine and just really finding genuine people. Like we'll take genuine people over hard skill every
Mhm.
Hmm.
10 out of 10 times. 10 out of 10
Hmm.
times. If you're
Yeah.
genuine, open, honest, and you have an understanding of, some emotional intelligence, like you're hired. If you can, if you're doing 30% of the job, we'll train you the other 70% of the way.
Yeah. I admire that about the two of you because you two haven't met before today, even though you're like ships in the night and have friends in common, I'm sure. But I will say I do admire the both of you because you do have that commonality where you both do take the time to get to know people and you actually know who your team is, you know who their partners are, you know everything about their family. Like you really focus on making sure that they have what they need and you don't hire specifically for what's on their resume. It's like genuinely about who they are as a person and if they have that ambition and fire in them
Mhm.
to just achieve and go further, and that's the thing. I've had the pleasure of working with both of you and I saw that commonality. That's why I was like, it's so great to meet two like really fantastic guys that are chefs that have incredible history, but also like I feel like this is the future of hospitality and kitchens and restaurants is right having leaders like the both of you that can change that. And that's where I hope that people do know if they have a fascination or an ambition to go into a kitchen, there are great people like yourselves that exist
Mhm.
that do want you to succeed in a great way. And it doesn't have to look like, past experiences in kitchens where you have people throwing things at you. It's not like that. You actually have good guys, that are that are going to make sure your lives are great. So I hope that people pursue life in the kitchen again and want to come back to the industry because I know a lot of people have left and that makes it hard and
Mhm.
are just like deciding to do other things but it's wonderful to hear how you focus on the goodness of the industry and want to change it and are changing it because I think people need to hear more of that.
Mhm.
So it's a good thing. Very honored to have you both here talking. So it's lovely. But we have some
So
other questions, Chef.
so we have a tradition. We have to ask you what your go-to comfort food is.
Oh,
Yes.
Sicilian pasta.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, pastas from South
Nice.
Italy, like not even a question. 80, I think 80, we just went there not too long ago. 80% of the island eats pasta once a day. It was
Really?
it was amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. But the portions are much like it's a premium. It's a, what I mean, it's a very small portion. And in
Yeah.
America, like you're used to this kind of cheesecake factory you referenced it a little bit ago, huge
Yeah.
plate, Alfredo, shrimp, like kind of this heavy, big stuff, but it's much smaller there. And yeah, nothing satisfies me more than a bowl of pasta. Nothing.
Amazing.
Not even a question.
Any specific type of pasta that you had over there? Like
Um,
noodles,
like the
sauce?
the Buzzati with the Trapanese, like the kind of the telephone cord, like rolled out one that's like, you
Oh,
can feel the pain of people making this, where you're just like, yeah, I know it took you a long time, and that's
oh,
why it's so good. It is truly a love, a labor of love. Like that is truly a labor of love. Like anytime you're
yeah,
making handmade pasta that takes a long time like that, you're doing it because you enjoy it, not because you're being forced to do this kind of thing. Um,
yeah.
so
Wow, that sounds delicious. And then if you could, what would you tell yourself, your 20-year-old self? What advice would you give you?
that's the easiest question. Stop spending money on dumb shit. Stop buying jeans and stop buying shoes and like going like save it, put it, invest it, put it into S and put all that money in the S&P then, and you would be like
Yeah.
in a way better spot now. You buy so much dumb crap when you're young, and like my son is, he's starting to now, he has a little bit of money saved up or whatever. He's trying to buy stuff. And, I'm like my father was to me at that time, like, you don't need that. Don't buy that.
Yeah.
Trying to discourage it, but you just can't stop like the budding, desire to buy stuff.
Oh
keep
my
keep
gosh.
him away from Corin and the Japanese knife
Oh,
store in
totally,
Beverly Hills.
totally, totally, totally. Yeah, but save that money, put it in something, put it in the stock market. You'll be so much smart, so much better if you
That's good
do.
advice.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give the next generation of chefs?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you have to really look like, I guess, understand why you got into it and what you enjoy about it. And don't jump, don't jump for like a paycheck. Like, don't obsess on the title or the paycheck because there's going to be a ceiling there. I see it all the time. Like, you got a good line cook. Maybe he did go to he or she went to culinary school, or maybe not. Doesn't really matter, to be honest. But then they want some money, they get a sous chef job, then they get kind of a chef de cuisine job at like a place that's not that great, and now they're stuck. They haven't learned enough, and they're sort of stuck at that range, and now they're living on that salary range. And then they start to turn over their chef de cuisine, chef de cuisine, chef de cuisine over and over again, and they can't crack through. And so just, you know, get as much knowledge as you can here and try to make those right moves so you don't hit that ceiling too soon. That would be my
That's
advice.
that's good advice.
That's
That's good
great,
advice.
great career advice.
Mhm.
Yeah, because that most of the time people are chasing a title. It's the wildest thing for this
Or
generation right now,
or
right?
or the paycheck.
Mhm.
Or
Typically,
a paycheck.
they come out of culinary school and they're we're chefs, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, no,
Yeah. Yep.
no,
All of a
no,
sudden, you
you.
are now a chef.
You're like, "Hey, you never got your hand fried in a fryer. You
Yeah.
don't know, and you've
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
had a spoon thrown at the
Well,
back of your head."
no, it's
Okay?
funny yeah, totally. When I was in New York, I had a kid come up to me fresh out of culinary school. He's like, "Hey, I want a job. I saw where you worked. I want to work with you." I was like, "Okay, come back tomorrow." Right? He comes back the next day and he brings his centrifuge. He's got this like centrifuge that he bought. And I'm like, "What is that?" And he's like, "It's a centrifuge. I thought we could, separate milk and use the skin." And I'm like, "Bro, go over there, work the fry station tonight, and let's see how you go." And of course, can't handle it, can't swing it. It's like brutal for him. I'm like, you know what I mean? You haven't even learned cooking yet, and you're trying to play with this centrifuge. Like, go to the best restaurant you can, cook as long as you can until you have like, you'll know when you have the skill to kind of go out on your own. You'll know it.
Right. And mentorship, I mean, this is a question I'm curious about. We've only had one other chef on the show, but like, do you have a
Yeah, you got
mentor?
to get with it. This show needs to get with it.
Yeah, I know.
I say more chefs.
We can fill it up with chefs, we're like balancing it out. But, like in your career, have you had a mentor
Oh,
during
definitely. That
yeah?
many, 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 many. Yeah. And I think that it's on you to, it's on the cook starting at whoever, whenever you're
Mhm.
starting out, you really need to find the best person to work for and go
Right.
and work there. And through that good work and that good relationship, that person is going to tell you, hey, you've learned everything here. Why don't you go check out this guy? When I was at the Fat Duck, I was there for almost a year and I wanted to stay longer. And Ashley at the time was the chef de cuisine. He was like, why don't you go to Mugar Eats and check that out? They're doing awesome stuff. It was Spain in 2005. El Bulli was coming out. Everybody was starting to branch out and like do all this stuff kind of everywhere. So I was like, cool. So I went there, and I worked with Andoni for a while, and then I'm getting ready to, go back to US. He's like, why don't you, check out Tom Aikens and go over there? And so, like many people along the path have to give you good information, or life's hard, pretty hard. If you don't have that, like you're gonna
Yeah.
meander around and struggle for a long time. But you have to do that research,
Yeah.
and there's so much information you can find with 4 clicks of a button, that a good chef from a bad chef, a good environment from, and you have to go and find that and
Yeah.
get that and do good work, and then you'll get mentorship and all that. But just showing up at the door doesn't isn't gonna get a mentorship.
No, no. That's, I mean, you said you worked for 2 years for free in Spain, right? Was it Spain?
Spain and London. Yeah.
Holy moly.
It's not
Great.
uncommon.
Not
Yeah.
everybody can do it. They ended up paying me a little bit after I was there. I was there for a few months. I was like, I need something. They gave me like a little bit. I lived in this tiny room, out there. It was kind of a mess, but and it's hard. Not everybody can do it. I just got out of culinary school, $60,000 in debt, and now I'm
Yeah.
going to work for free. And my parents like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I have to." You know what I mean? And you just kind of gamble, roll the dice, and
Yeah.
hope it pays off. Work hard through it.
That's amazing.
Don't put
And
your hand
then,
in the fryer.
yeah.
In the way.
Let someone else do it for you.
Yeah. And where can people find you now? Like, what is it that you're doing now? Because that's a cool story too.
Yeah, so we real estate owners and developers call us, and my company's Mosaic. They call our company and ask them to find a food and beverage solution for them. So hotels say, hey, we have this hotel, we just built it. Can you do a concept and a food and beverage solution? So we figure out what the market needs and kind of build a concept or a brand around that and hire, train, execute, do the whole thing.
Yeah.
So we have the Shea Hotel in Culver City is one that we're
Mhm.
doing.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, Prima
Great.
Donna restaurant. And
Awesome split. Awesome spot.
nice. If you ever want to come in, just let me know. And then we have another hotel. We're doing the W in Hollywood. We
Mhm.
have a building Entrada in Culver City, and a few more deals along the way. That we're trying to
Amazing.
finalize, yeah.
How fun. You get to do what you love in a whole
Yeah,
different stratosphere. It's awesome.
yeah, yeah, it is fun. It's a lot of it's more creating and kind of allowing chefs to kind of, chefs and managers to kind of um do their thing with some guardrails, but mostly it's stay out, hire good people and kind of stay out of their way.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Love it.
yeah.
I love it. Well, is there anything else that we need to share with our listeners about you?
I
Anything else
don't
you
think
wanna
so.
let people know?
No.
No?
So no,
You're
I think
good?
we said it all.
We have one last question for you from Chef Adam then. This is
Okay.
the question we love to end with.
It's just one thing that you're grateful for. Then your
Oof.
life, career.
I mean, you probably hear it all the time, like the family thing, but truly, truly, without a good family connection, like I would be much worse off than where I'm at. So I've been blessed with like a beautiful family, a loving wife, parents and in-laws, and just a good support network. And I think that's what's really kind of helped me stay sane through this whole thing.
Amazing. Oh,
Amazing.
that's
Thank
wonderful.
you.
And thank you so much for being on our show
You're
today. It's so
welcome.
wonderful to have you.
It was great talking to both of you. You both are extremely sharp on all this stuff, and it's nice to connect on this stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Great to meet and connect with you, Chef.
Awesome. Well, you guys all have my number,
Yeah, we'll be
so
coming by
hopefully
to
stay in
eat.
touch and come by to eat. Yeah.
It would be wonderful. Well, yeah, definitely. We'll set something up where we can come hang with you, okay?
Sounds
And
good.
talk more shop.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that would be
Maybe
awesome.
you could tell us more stories about fryers.
There are several stories. There are.
Yeah, you guys can swap stories. Thankfully, I have never had to deal with that at all. But it's such a pleasure. You take care and much
You too.
success to you.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you both.
All
You
right,
too.
see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
We'll see you again.
Take
See you
care.
later. You've just listened to our guest, Chef Michael Santoro, along with my co-host, Chef Adam Malley, and myself, Kristy Whitford, talking about the hospitality industry and how it is changing little by little. As we celebrate the Mental Health Awareness Month, it's wonderful to hear how Chef Michael Santoro is changing the way his kitchen operates, how his business operates, and also inspiring other leaders to lead by example. So the one thing I hope you all take away is that there are good people out there trying to make a change and make a difference in our world of hospitality. And for people that also love to look at others and what others are doing, just remember that comparison is the thief of joy, and we can be better. Let's not compare so much, but also take a chance on new experiences and give other people the opportunity before we make a judgment. So have a wonderful day wherever you are. Take good care, be safe, be kind, and we look forward to welcoming you back to the Hotel Club podcast next Thursday. Cheers.